Well, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of the 2024 Oregon High School Football Clips of the Week training video brought to you by the OSAA. As always, all clips and rulings have been vetted through Oregon State Rules Interpreter Kevin Hatfield. We are not looking to embarrass any individual official, association, player, school, or coach. We're all working to get better, get on the same page, and have our goal of one rule, one mechanic, and one interpretation. With that said, let's get into this week's Clips of the Week. Before we look at some new clips, we want to revisit two plays that we reviewed in episode 6. The first one involved a sideline warning for a second time during a game, this time on a long kickoff return. And in the episode, we mentioned that if a third instance of this were to occur, that it would result in an unsportsmanlike foul, which is correct. However, we also mentioned that if there was contact, that would have resulted in unsportsmanlike, and that's not correct. Unintentional contact should be treated as a personal foul, not an unsportsmanlike. However, if there are two instances of unintentional contact in the restricted area while the ball is live, although both are treated as personal fouls, regardless if it's the same or different assistant coach, head coach, player, etc., that does result in the disqualification of a head coach. It's also important to know that any unsportsmanlike that has been assessed to the head coach during the game cannot be combined with a personal foul, unintentional contact in the restricted area for disqualification purposes. We appreciate the official sending in that question, so we had the opportunity to clarify. The other clip that we received a question on was regarding a kick-catching interference foul on a play in which we had an inadvertent whistle. And during the clip that we showed, we said that it was very likely that the receiving team would accept the penalty for kick catching interference and have that enforced from the end of the kick. The inadvertent whistle would be disregarded because we'd have an accepted foul. However, we received a question asking about whether or not the return team could choose to have that kick catching interference foul enforced from the previous spot in the case of field position, perhaps there's bad weather or something like that. And yes, that is an option that we can give the receiving team. So it's important to understand that they did have two options on this play. One would be enforced from the spot of the kick catching interference foul, and the other would have been enforced from the previous spot. So thank you again for that question and the opportunity to clarify the options. So we took a look at that play again regarding sideline interference and talked about the importance of sideline management. We also want to make sure that we're looking beyond the restricted area to make sure that the areas of the field in which we're operating are free from spectators, media, and so on. And we want to take a look here at a couple of plays. And it's important for us to be able to clean up areas of the field to make sure that we can operate safely, those folks will not get hurt, and that players are also not at risk of injury by running into someone. So we can see here on this play, as it goes towards the end, we have a photographer clearly inside the dotted line there, just past the pylon, which is not a good place to be working. And we're going to see here that they get taken out. Now, hopefully they appear to be okay, but this could have been a situation in which that photographer, an official, or a player could have been hurt. So let's make sure that we're looking at all areas of the field that should be clear are clear. And just look at another clip here real quick, and we'll notice here that we have upwards of 7 or 8 people that are in an area of the field in which they cannot be. And again, this poses a risk to players, officials, and these folks themselves. And again, we're going to see a photographer get hit, and thankfully they appear okay. But as we reach the playoffs, it could be that this area of the field we'll see more and more people. So wings, back judge, make sure you can take a quick look down the line and make sure that everyone is out of harm's way. Speaking of sideline management, we want to take a look at a clip from a couple of weeks ago. And the clip isn't the best in terms of determining whether or not there was a foul on this play. Towards the top of the screen, there's going to be a question as to whether or not there was defensive pass interference. And again, we can't tell from the film. However, we want to watch how the coach down here at the bottom of the screen reacts. They're clearly coming out of the field, all the way out to the numbers. They're yelling at an official. And while we don't quite see it on screen, we can kind of see the remnants here. They spiked their headset and it shattered into several pieces. In reviewing this play with the state rules interpreter, at a minimum, an unsportsmanlike conduct foul is warranted for violations of rules 981 and 983. However, with the spiking of the headset, that puts it over the top. And in reviewing this, our state rules interpreter would have supported a flagrant unsportsmanlike violation, which would have resulted in the head coach being disqualified. So it's important that coaches remain on the sideline. We have the one voice rule in Oregon. All questions would come through the head coach or their one designee, but officials be vigilant about coaches coming out into the field and arguing calls. So the next two clips we're going to look at involve free kicks. In this first one, we're going to get a pooch kick over the front line of the return team. It's going to become a grounded free kick, and it's going to end up being recovered by a member of the kicking team. Now, we have a member of the kicking team highlighted here. As it appears they go out of bounds, they come back in fact, are probably the first player to touch the ball. However, if we watch this again, we're going to notice that the player for the kicking team is blocked out of bounds and immediately comes back in. So they are not violating an illegal participation rule here. Because this kick traveled more than 10 yards and had been grounded, the kicking team is allowed to recover the ball. Of course, they could not advance this, which is not the case anyway here, but they are allowed to recover this and keep possession of the ball. This appears to be a well officiated play by this crew. Great job. We have a similar play here in which we're going to get another pooch kick. This time, however, a member of the kicking team is the first to touch it while the ball is still in the air. This results in kick catching interference, and we would enforce a 15-yard penalty from this point, most likely, or because this is a loose ball play, they could go back to the previous spot, like we talked earlier with the punt and the inadvertent whistle. Excellent job by this crew to be heads up to this. And again, in comparison to the first free kick that we saw, the ball had yet to touch the ground. While it had traveled 10 yards, the kicking team cannot be the first to touch the ball if it has not become grounded. So heads up play by the officiating crew here. The return team did in fact accept the foul from the spot, and it was 1st and 10, 15 yards in advance of the spot of the foul. One of the consistent things that we talk about a lot is the importance of dead ball officiating, and we're going to see an excellent job by this crew here. Now, before we roll the clip, let's just take a moment to appreciate the fact that these officials were brave enough to don their knickers from years gone by in a throwback game. Kudos to this crew. Now, as this play develops, we're going to notice that way away from the end of the action, we're going to see this continuing action between two players here. And as we pause, we can see that we have 4 different officials keeping an eye on this. The back judge is noticing it, the line judge is noticing it, our center judge is noticing it, as is our referee. But if we watch this slowly, right about the time the line judge and the back judge look away, we're going to get a late shove here by a member of the offensive team. However, both of our referee and our center judge notice this unnecessary roughness personal foul. So excellent job by this crew, not only for their fashion sense, but their excellent dead ball officiating. It would have been easy to look away from this, but thankfully we had two different sets of eyes on the continuing action. Great job. Next clip that we're going to look at is fairly basic in nature and should be standard mechanics at this point. For the past 2 years, we've asked the wing officials to be the primary on the line of scrimmage, and that they will not leave the line of scrimmage on a pass until the pass is released and the ball is beyond the line of scrimmage. As you can see on this play, we have the head linesman doing an excellent job maintaining position on the line of scrimmage, while unfortunately our line judge is drifting downfield. And inexplicably, we do see this each week from a number of wing officials. As a reminder on pass plays, unless it's a game situation like a Hail Mary or something like that, we're going to have the wing officials maintain the line of scrimmage. What we're going to notice on this play is that the lineman goes well downfield. The line of scrimmage is the 38, and the pass crosses the line of scrimmage. So at a minimum, we would have an ineligible player downfield. The line judge, unfortunately, is not in the best position to see this because they've drifted. And we're going to notice that it appears that the head linesman reaches for their flag and then chooses not to throw it, presumably because they may have seen the ineligible downfield. Now, if we look at this again, we're going to notice that not only is a member of the offensive line well downfield, they engage with a member of the defense while the ball is in the air and a pass crosses the line of scrimmage. This, in fact, could be upgraded to offensive pass interference. So a reminder to wing officials, please do not leave the line of scrimmage on passes until the pass is released and the ball is beyond the line of scrimmage. And if you see that ineligible downfield, throw your flag. Well, I couldn't get enough of the throwback game in the knickers, so we're going to look at two more clips that involve scrimmage kicks with this crew, and just excellent mechanics and officiating by the crew on these plays. So let's watch this again and start from the beginning. And we're going to notice the wide side of the field is going to be towards the lower end of our screen, towards the line judge's side. So the head linesman is going to release once the snap is cleanly possessed. And that's what we get here. Now they take a quick peek back, and they're going to notice that the punter has decided to run. So when that happens, they stop, and then they officiate this like a running play, allowing the punter turned runner to pass them, and they're going to then officiate this again like a running play. They're in excellent position to rule on this, and it does appear that the runner has made the line of game. So excellent mechanics here by the head linesman, who released once the snap was possessed, but then promptly stopped and officiated the play very well once they noticed this was a fake. And similarly, the line judge does an excellent job on this play. They would likely be the one to release in this situation, but they're going to notice a direct snap to the up back, and again, they officiate this just like any other scrimmage play. And because it's fourth down, they're going to kill the clock, but they indicate to the referee that we have a first down. So this is why we ask the wing official who is releasing on a scrimmage kick to not immediately release, but make sure that the snap is cleanly possessed. In this case, we have an immediate fake punt. Neither wing official has released, and the crew is in excellent position to rule on this. Great job. Our last clip of the week comes from the same game, and it involves a swinging gate point after try. Now, normally we ask for the referee to be on the right-hand side of the offensive formation, and this referee sort of gets in position for that. We would then ask the umpire or center judge to go with the wall or where the majority of the offensive team goes, and then if the gate closes, they would simply go back under the nearest goalpost. Now, in a formation like this, we don't have that. We have 3 players on the offensive line on either side of the center. So the crew appears to do a good job here and somewhat spread out to be able to officiate this play. Now, this isn't the best angle, but it does appear that perhaps the 3 linemen to the left of the snapper and possibly the 3 linemen to the right of the snapper are a yard off the ball. But we're going to assume that this is a legal formation. Now, with that said, let's notice that the snapper then is obviously going to be covered. this means that they are ineligible by position. So our back judge, our referee, or our umpire or center judge should be able to catch that. So as we watch this play, we're going to notice that the snapper does go downfield. Now this is a pass that appears to be caught right around the line of scrimmage. And this is important because the snapper did go downfield. If this pass has crossed the line of scrimmage, we would have an ineligible player downfield, and that penalty, of course, would be accepted and enforced. If this play is caught behind the line of scrimmage, then we don't have a foul. Now, the crew in this case ruled that the pass was caught behind the line of scrimmage, thus they didn't throw a flag. But just a reminder that on swinging gate plays, we have a lot to review. It's important to slow down. And if you notice that a team runs a swing gate on film, make sure to prepare in your pregame meeting about how you're going to officiate a play like that. Well, that's it for this week's Clips of the Week. Again, all clips and rulings have been vetted through Oregon State Rules Interpreter Kevin Hatfield. We do appreciate all of the clips and questions sent in by officials and coaches throughout the state. Best of luck with your games this week, and we'll talk to you next week.